Maybe let me just start by clarifying one or two or three issues. You know, I joined just less than a month ago, to be precise, on March the 17th. So I haven't really had an opportunity to interact with legislators on the ZANU-PF side of Parliament, on the ruling party side of Parliament. Some of the few members of Parliament and perhaps even the cabinet ministers and deputy ministers whom I happen to know on a personal level. So I don't think I'll be truthful if I say or try to give a synopsis of what the ruling party side of the equation says about this recall clause 129 1K of the Constitution. Suffice to say that look, I don't view of that particular clause.
Yes, you are a lawyer. You are a lawyer by training. You are a politician.
Yes.
If you were to give advice to ZANU-PF, hypothetically speaking, let's say you are appointed in the legal office of ZANU-PF, what would be your advice to the party?
Look, Justice, I would like to take us back to say, look, at the end of the day, there was that, I don't know whether I should call it organization or I don't know, I'm failing to get a suitable term. There was COPAC, which was mandated to come up with which literally ran the process of, the constitution making process, culminating in the adoption of that constitution in May, if I'm not wrong, May 2013, when it was formally constituted into law after the referendum, where more than 90% of the people who voted in the referendum voted yes. So I happened to have had Professor Maduku, when I was following on Facebook on my phone, raise some very pertinent issues to say, at the end of the day, this was a politically driven constitution, because COPAC, let's face it, let's admit the fact, Dr. Mawizenge, COPAC was basically driven by the two MDC then, before these various factions and sub-factions, when Dr. Muchangira was still alive. So yes, this section, I would say, was one of the sections that was adopted unanimously by the people, because it was more like consensus across the political divide to say, how do we deal with members of our parties who would have either left the parties or literally, not follow the party line. Go close, being maintained or being brought back into the constitution, in the 2013 constitution. So I would say, yes, I don't see from a personal point of view, Dr. Mawizenge, I honestly don't see any problem with that clause. Why? Because you are basically saying, look, if you're a member of a political party and you are elected into an elective office under the auspices of that particular political party, quite honestly, it's like in any organization where there's a soccer club. I mean, there are certain rules and regulations that you have to abide with or abide by. And my argument really, or my submission is this: look, if you then want to deviate from either membership of that political party that sponsored your election into either a parliament or into a municipal office in the local government, then the best thing you have to do is to say, look, comrades, I am dissociating myself from membership of the party. So what? Joining this other party, or I'm forming my own party, or I'm becoming an independent, and then you recontest either as a member of another party or a member of your own party, or as an independent.
Elections are very expensive to participate in. Very expensive.
When you look at it, Justice, I know you're quite experienced in these things. The studies on constitution and democracy as such. Democracy doesn't come cheap, Justice. Democracy, what we look at as the more advanced democracies. Look at the United States of America, for instance. They had an election in November 2020, and now already they are planning to actually campaigning for the midterms, which are coming next year, 2022. And after that, 2024, they go back to another election. So, I mean, that's the cost of democracy. Democracy is not...
Yeah, I think you've made a point, but before I let you go,
Yes.
because there have been issues that have been raised here. One of the issues may be good, as you are saying, but this provision may also have its own inherent weaknesses. But
I agree. I agree.
There is a view that the provision is being manipulated, especially by the ruling parties and PF. Now, look, I want you to respond to those views, but in the context of this question. So some of because those views are given credence by this fact, some of have openly declared that they would like to see Zimbabwe becoming a one-party state.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this is appropriate in light of the values underpinning our constitution, particularly the value around multi-partyism? And doesn't this also give credence to the perspective that the misapplication of 129 1K is part of the objective to...
I actually like that question, Dr. Maiteng. You know what? I have not been in ZANU-PF long enough to really understand what I want to call the ZANU-PF political DNA. And at the same time, I actually have no mandate. I have no local standing in this particular conference webinar to speak on behalf of ZANU-PF. So whatever I'm articulating, really I'm articulating from a personal point of view and maybe from a legal practitioner's point of view. So what I'm basically saying is I think where it is not even there. Someone goes to the pub and they drink themselves to madness. They go back to their houses. They engage in domestic violence. They will blame ZANU-PF. Somebody gets into a car, drives recklessly, gets involved in an accident. They will blame ZANU-PF. Okay. What I'm just trying to say is we see, or some people tend to see the end of ZANU-PF everywhere. When you look at how these days of, let's go back a few years ago, Munyaradzi Gwisai. Professor Madukuru raised the issue of Munyaradzi Gwisai, and he said, and rightly so, that Munyaradzi Gwisai was actually the first victim of this recall thing, or this recall clause, after the Tekere days. So we are simply saying, if people are having problems in their own party, there are all these factions in MDC. I know that because I was in this party from 2000, thereabouts, from the time it was formed. I know there are factions. I know there are factions within factions. So when you look at it now to say, who was recalling these MDC Alliance members of parliament from either the National Assembly or the Senate? It's the other faction or factions of the same party. So how then do you see ZANU-PF getting involved? Unless ZANU-PF is so powerful that they will enter into our systems, they invade our brains, then it's a super party, isn't it? But I don't think they operate that way. I think this is a direct result, Justice, a direct result of factionalism. Factionalism gone awry. So for as long as people are in denial, and they see the end of ZANU-PF even when it is not there, they are being in denial. They don't want to accept that factionalism is actually driving the MDC in its various formations. By saying that from where I am, I don't see any problem. I have no problems whatsoever with Section 129 1K. I think what political parties should know is that themselves to ensure that they are run as better acts. Or this propensity to always say, because of that section, or because of ZANU-PF, or because of these other external factors, we are having these challenges. Quite honestly, when you look at 129 1K as a clause or as a section in the Constitution, absolutely no problems with that. It is the way how parties fail to manage themselves, how they degenerate internally, having factions within factions. I'm saying so because I'm speaking from a position of knowledge. I have been, like I said, in the opposition parties for more than 20 years, and I know the ins and outs. I know how these factions form themselves. I know how these sub-factions form themselves within factions. So one can go on and on and on. So this continuous propensity or appetite to blame external factors for parties' own failure to manage themselves, these kind of pitfalls, then they really have to better their act and make sure that they are better managed and better run. And let me also go to the issue, the Pearl top defectors. I don't know exactly with respect what she was referring to by defector. When you look at Section 58 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, it allows freedom of association. Even in the United States where she is, if she knows Donald Trump was a member of the Democratic Party for many, many years, and but he went all the way to become president of the United States of America on a Republican Party ticket. So this issue of defections or moving from one party to another isn't new. It even happens in the United States. So I just wanted to clarify that to say, and this blame on Russia and China with respect is very unfortunate.